I still have people making comments saying that the smoke alarm is in the back, right? Well, you're welcome to feel how you want to feel, but clearly y'all must be obsessed with me, but you guys love the black jokes, right? Second, when I crack back on some of y'all ain't gonna like it, right? Um, so today's video is gonna be the fuck is real fighting games, right? And if I'm being honest, I don't even know anymore because, like most fandoms, they're hypocritical, or even people in general. They don't even gotta be fans of nothing. There's people who sit all day and stare on the dot on the wall and be like, that dot on the wall is better on that dot. No, that dot on the wall is better. So the Street Fighter roster has to show those all arounders, jack of all trades, master of none, right? You have Ryu, Ken, right? Technically, you could say Ryu specializes in fireballs, but there are zoners, so you really can't say that. But Ken specializes in DPs, right? Then later you get Akuma, who is a boss character, which they claim is a glass cannon, despite the fact he can take 75% of your health bar with one ult, but that's besides the point. So Akuma's obviously designed to be broken, which still broken nonetheless. The Akuma plot was cool for a couple to a few games, but being there, seeing that, then you get Sakura. Obviously, she's a Ryu student, so she's not as strong, but she hasn't mastered all her techniques until Street Fighter V. Plus, she's a woman, so she's faster, but not as strong as all the Shotos. So she's one of the fastest Shotos and focuses on speed, right? The Shotos would be broken, excluding Akuma, but he's a boss character, if they did not specialize in none of the things they all know how to do, right? Then you get the grapplers. You have E Honda and Blanca, who are big and have super armor, and they can bait people into a grab. But you could say either rush down or grappler, but to me, they seem more like grapplers or rush downs, depending on which day of the week you pick, right? But then you get to Dhalsim, right, who's obviously a limb zone like Sagat, who Sagat is tied with Guile in terms of how broken they can be depending on which game, but Guile was playable first, even though Sagat was in Street Fighter first as a boss. But I'm going to be talking about Guile because he's playable first, and it can be either or with him. But Sagat is a fireball zoner like Guile and a limb zoner like Dhalsim, right? Then you get to Guile, right? Clearly, they did not fucking balance this nigga Guile, or I should say this wigger Guile, because this man Guile can move while shooting fireballs, right? Unlike Sagat, majority of the time. So he can zone you, right? Move you back with fireballs, except the problem is that he can move toward you while you're able to move slower or stun. Excuse me. So that's something a rush down can obviously do. So clearly that's broken. So he's a zoner and a rush down. On top of that, he has good grabs. So you're basically screwed. You have a grappler, a zoner, and a rush down in one. But people will be like, man, these fighting games today are so broken, man. We need to go back to the 90s and the 80s. Well, in the 80s and the 90s, you had the OGs, the original broken characters, which is why this new generation of fighting game characters is so messed up, right? Alpha and Third Strike, they had alpha counters and pairs, which are basically the same fucking thing, right? Which basically can parry any move, usually a fireball and even some alts, right? Even though parrying was a thing in SNK first, but I'm gonna get into that a bit later, right? A set know what they do to fuck it up. They was like, this game Guilty Gear, the Guilty Gear franchise is popular. What if we add, during play testing and install to a rushdown character, and the install makes them faster, right? So they gave Yun and Yang, right, an install that makes them faster. News flashes my white friends will say, they're rushdown characters. They're already fast. So obviously you can't parry something if they're moving too fast than every other character. Your eyes cannot catch up to the game. So basically they broke the game, basically, with Yun and Yang. I think they were just playtesting and thought that was cool, right? Obviously Takashi Nishiyama thought Street Fighter 1 and 2 had pretty bad lore, which was explained later on, through remakes of the Street Fighter 2 story, right? And Takashi Nishiyama was a co-founder slash producer of Street Fighter 1 and even some concepts that bled into future Street Fighter games like Street Fighter 2 and stuff like that, right? So Takashi Nishiyama was like, let's just do Street Fighter, but with the actually decent story that's on par with an anime. They did Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, that includes Art of Fighting, which is a prequel to KOF, King of Fighters, and Fatal Fury, which is sometimes, Fatal Fury, the first Fatal Fury game was called Fatal Fury King of Fighters, right? But that's besides the point. But basically, the Orochi saga from KOF is on the level of a lot of mid to good anime, right? And I can say the same thing for Guilty Gear. Guilty Gear story is kind of a bit better, but the creator of Guilty Gear obviously he studied anime, right? If you clearly look, and even movies and a lot of things, music and stuff like that, but that's stretching a bit. Shout out to D all the way, the only YouTuber who actually agreed or made a video on SNK, making all their black characters jobbers or whatever. But that's besides the point. I don't know this person in real life. I'll never meet him. This dude could be a crazy person for all I know. Like all the YouTubers I've ever watched or subbed to, right? I don't know these people. Same thing with anybody's content you consume, right? But SNK, they do be making black characters jobbers now. Capcom do be throwing some jokes like with the date they released Rashid. I'm not gonna say it though, and Balrog. Yeah. According to LTG, there's a lot of rogs out here, but that's besides the point, raccoonery aside. But basically I appreciate any other YouTubers who helped, explaining SNK lore too. It's weird how when SNK suddenly went bankrupt, we had Dolores, being one of the main characters, a part of the hero team, and KLF, which Dolores, what that shit sounds like, a fucking black church member, right? That sounds like an old head in the community. But Dolores is a pretty good name at the end of the day. I can't really talk because my name is Seth and that's the name of some nerdy white guy, so I'm not really one to talk. I get roasted a lot of times by the community, so I really need to shut up right now. I'm making myself look really stupid. But that's besides the point. We got a whole, Afro, Latino. Well, technically they're just African, but they live in a Latin country, so no Latino DNA. But we got the South America team. We got all like these niggas, coming to the cookout in KOF 15, right? But yeah, that's besides the point. But they decided in the Ash Crimson saga, which is just the Orochi saga, but worse, even though the graphics are better, they added Ash Crimson, who plays exactly like Guile. And, they obviously already have installs in KOF. Well, SNK Boss Syndrome explains how broken KOF is more than majority of fighting games. So then you have Takashi Nishiyama making Dimps. Now, he had nothing to do with Dragon Ball Xenoverse, which Dimps made. Dimps is more of a game that mainly makes licensed games or third-party games, right? So, they get hired to make games similar to Arc System Works with the Marvel Tolkien or Tolkien thing and Dragon Ball Fighters, right? But that's besides the point. But that is related. Those are examples, right? But basically what happened was that Dimps saw a game out, right? A whole series, a whole franchise out. It was called Naruto Storm, right? There's cheese in a lot of these Naruto Storm games. Now, at the end of the day, I'm a YN. I'm a young nigga, right? I started with which Storm game was it? Oh, I started with Naruto Storm 1's open world. Then I went to Storm 2's open world. I didn't play the game because I couldn't get past the cutscenes. Then I went around and went to Storm 3. But then I got into Naruto Storm 4 and I was trash at that. obviously, because I was a noob, and I'm still a noob at Naruto Storm Connections, right? But that's basically besides the point because I have gotten better. I am playing with people from an Xbox Discord server, and I got into the Storm community somewhat. The competitive community. I mainly just play ranked casually. I don't play casuals because I'm not trying to run into a level 1 billion. I want to stay within my rank. But then they was like, let's make Xenoverse because what made Storm so good, despite the fact there are gonna be characters that are broken in every game, it's mostly balanced in the fact what makes the Storm franchise so great is that the Storm franchise slash series has stamina, which technically stamina is what they call it in Xenoblade Storm. They call it subs, but I'm gonna call it stamina. Your subs is a defensive mechanic where you can basically break out of a combo, like a combo breaker and a teleport mixed together. If you play like Killer Instinct, which I've never played before, and I don't really like the game honestly, but that's besides the point. It's basically a defensive mechanic, but if you're out, people can basically kill you in one combo. And basically you have to conserve your stamina and stuff in order to be able to use it. And you do that by learning how to extend combos without using, your chakra or your ki to do super moves slash ultimate moves, and you use the fact you're in a 3D arena fighter, not a 3D fighter like Tekken, to move around at free will to dodge people and mix people up and play mind games, right? Xenoverse did that, except they fucked around and added custom creator characters. So you can have, if every character has one broken move, you can have all those moves on your character. But it's okay when it's the diamond characters, though. I got into Dragon Ball because family friends taught me how to be anime straw hat, I had to become one of the straw hat pirates online, right? And I found out about Dragon Ball also through associates at school or whatever. But that's besides the point. That's how I got into fighters, and that's how I got into fighting games because the Hadouken look like the Kamehameha, right? But that's basically besides the point. But basically with fighters, a lot of people didn't like the game because all of the characters played the same, right? And the thing is, majority of the characters are either related, or they're not all Saiyans, which are the same race, which are the same. They're all in relation because they have the same DNA, right? If they're not a Saiyan or they're a half Saiyan or whatever, Gohan was trained by Piccolo, so majority of characters fight like their teachers. Goku learned from Roshi, that was his teacher, right? But people are mad and they're saying a lot of the characters in art style look the same, which that's a criticism more of Toriyama's art style. In the art system works artists who have to redraw, Toriyama's art style. But we got 21. Okay, that's besides the point. Fan service aside, on a serious note, Dragon Ball Fighters basically became a dead game. One, because they didn't want to make any more content for it, and two, they broke the game. It's called Dragon Ball Fighters. It's about throwing hands. The Dragon Ball franchise game or anime or movie is about throwing hands. Why did they buff all the zoners? Everyone said, oh, all the characters play exactly the same. Now they're mad because they buffed the zoners. The only characters who don't play the game the same as everybody else, how they play the game, right? So if you run into Beerus, Ginyu, or Frieza, or the Super Saiyan Blues, or one of the fusions, right? Not really the Super Saiyan Blues and the fusions, because they nerfed them and 21. Both of them, both of the 21s. Now, if you run into a team of zoners, you are absolutely fucked. Because people don't want every character to play the same. Because the truth is, people want variety, which is boring if a game don't got variety. But if their favorite character is not the strongest, then people are mad. So either way, we're screwed. That's the same reason why people don't like footsies, right? People are complaining about balance, but do you see anybody playing footsies? Every character in that fighting game is the same. No wonder Shinobi Striker's character customization is way better because they don't give you wigs, they give you a character's actual hairstyle, which really should not matter in a game where majority of the forms are not changing your hair color unless it's Ten Tails or Curse Mark. It really doesn't matter, or KCM, which basically no, what I'll say KCM does change your hair color. It's just all the people who use KCM's hair color is the same as the KCM aura slash hair color, which is orange slash yellow, depending on who it is. But on top of that, Shinobi's character creator is better with the closest clothes don't affect stats. Really, that was a dumb feature in Xeno because, you can't really mix an MMORPG, which is usually made by Japanese or Asian or Chinese, Korean, etc. people, with fighting game mechanics. That just doesn't fit well because that kind of takes some of the skill out of it and some of the brokenness out of it, depending on what's your preferred fighting game. On top of that, when Kishimoto drew the Shinobi Striker avatar, that dude looks like Naruto if he had his mother's hair color and like Minato slash Hashirama's eyes, which Hashirama is a maternal ancestor of Naruto who's male and Minato is his dad. So the dude looks like if Naruto's genetics were just if they basically reversed Homeboy's chromosomes when he came out the womb.